Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going over the Yoko-Geri Kikomi, or Shotokan side thrust kick. I'm going to break the kick down into a few different parts to make it a little bit easier to understand or to improve and develop your own kick. I'm going to give an exercise or a few exercises in order to improve the kick that you can do at home or at the dojo or in your classes. And we're going to talk a little bit about the correct alignment and the correct muscle groups that we want to be using. Okay, so this video, as I said, is on the Yoko-Geri Kikomi. Let's get going. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is get the kick chambered in the right place, because this is probably the number one problem that I find when I'm teaching in my dojo and also in other dojos, is that the chamber position for the kick, at least in the way that I like to do it, is kind of wrong for the path of the kick. Okay, if I'm making a side thrust kick, a kikomi, I need to involve the glutes and the hips, the muscles of the glutes and hips, right? And I need to have a hip extension. The hip needs to extend into that kick in order to generate the power for the kick. So I'm going to use the wall at the moment. We're going to take the balance aspect completely out of it, and we're just going to do a little exercise to develop the kick to start with, okay? So the number one tip I like to give is to show the hip to the opponent this way. Show your glutes towards the target, okay? In order to do that, I want to turn my supporting foot so my heel is facing them as well. Okay, heel facing the target and then hips facing the target. I then want to chamber my kick in front of my body here. Okay, as I turn my supporting foot, it then brings my heel up a little higher so I can deliver that kick out to the side this way. I want to get my heel and my glutes and my back and my shoulder all lined up in one line. I don't want to have my hips sticking out the back this way, because then we've lost that structure of the kick. Okay, so the first exercise, like I said, hold onto the wall or something, or a chair, whatever you want to use, turn the foot away, or heel towards the target, knee up in front, and deliver the kick this way, okay? So that's it, extending that hip, this way, extending. Trying again, like I said, to get a straight line down my body, heel through my hip and into my shoulder. I don't want my kick to come into this space at all. I don't need to bring my foot around, because this becomes my Yoko-Geri. So all of the entire kick for Kikomi, Yoko-Geri Kikomi, happens on the inside here, this way, deliver and back to the front. I also like to compare this kick to a front stance, or a Zenkutsu Dachi, like a forwards leaning stance that we have in Shotokan and in many karate styles. So this is our position, leaning away from that front stance, and this is the same kind of position I want to get for the kick. So my back foot is turned away, my heel is turned in, and the glutes and hips and everything are lined up. So it's just a front stance, but up in the air, same feeling, okay? So that moves us into our second exercise, where we are going into Zenkutsu Dachi, or front stance. From this position, again holding onto the wall for balance at the moment, chamber, send, back, into that position here, send, and back. So it's very close almost to an Ushiro-Geri. I'm turning my hips right over and sending the kick almost behind me. So again, Zenkutsu Dachi there, pick up, send, back, pick up, send, back, getting that hip extension every time. Now the third thing I want to do is take it into a basic form, or a Kion form, so a fundamental training exercise. And I want to make a slight difference to the classical or traditional way that it's generally taught in Shotokan dojos. So what we'll often do is get into Kibidachi, and in the kind of grading syllabus you step across the front here, and then you pick the kick up and send that kikomi from that position. What this does, however, is it encourages the knee to chamber in the wrong place. If I'm here, I'm almost blocking this leg, so it's encouraging me to bring the kick around like I'm a washi. So what I like to do instead is have the foot come behind, because now we've gone back to the previous thing about getting the hips shown to the target. Now my foot goes behind, and now my knee is chambered in the right place for me. Yeah. So the exercise then is to change from coming front to going behind. Go behind as that foot pops down onto the floor. We send that kikomi out this way, okay? It's just a slight adaptation to the kion that we normally practice. We can then take it into a more free-flowing kind of feeling, where I'll be here, you may be at a Kamai position, and I'll skip the back foot through, like the Bruce Lee style side kick that he's famous for. Right, from here, boom, there, and send that kikomi in this way. All this is doing is just getting us, or encouraging us, to turn our body in the correct place to deliver that side kick correctly, and to avoid chambering this side and making it like I'm a Yoko-Geri. So now the difficult part is taking it from a front stance, because we don't have the benefit of getting our hips lined up as a result of that foot sticking through the back. So what I want to do now then is think about chambering this knee across to this hand. Okay, this is my next motion here. Chamber here. I want to come across the centre line of my body. Okay, so like I said earlier, I don't want the kick to happen in this space at all. Okay, this area here, the kick doesn't want to get into there at all. So I want to come across here, rotate that supporting foot, and then drive the kick from that position. Okay, so from this position here, knee comes up, rotate. So I'm ready to go from here. I can push through that back leg, push through the back leg and drive the hip, or insert can me this way and land forwards. Yeah? From here, same thing. Knee chambers across that centre line each time. Across the centre line. Lined up, ready for that kick to drive out to the target. So again, it's just following the same ideas, isn't it? It's getting the hip lined up so you're aiming at that person or at that target. From here, over. Hip facing the partner or the opponent. Then extending the hip down this way, whoosh, and then coming back down. The kick doesn't have to be high. People struggle when I'm teaching. People are struggling to kick and they're trying to kick up here all the time. They're sort of getting their kick and they can't get it. Get the kick low first. A good low kick is much better than a bad high kick. Okay, so from this position, same feeling. Cut across, down. We see this in kata, that's about driving their kick downwards. And arguably, lower side kicks are probably more effective anyway. So from here, cut across, extend that hip, line everything up. Whoosh, line it all up this way. So the next thing I like to try and use to develop my kicking power and the feeling within the kick, at least on the impact, is using a target. I've got a setup here that's not ideal. Better to have someone holding it for you, but this is what we got when we are on our own. Okay, so from this position, I'm going to place my foot onto the pad. Okay, same as I said earlier, hip turn over, knee slightly bent, and from that position, I just want to push, 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 and push into that pad. So I have that feeling of pressing here. Yeah, the back foot is slightly bent. I don't want to have this front foot straight because that's never good for the knee, and we've got nothing left in the kick. Okay, so from here, legs are bent, and I'm just extending the hip, just a kind of a little pulse with the hip, that feeling. Okay, so that's the kind of last 10% of the kick we are training. We're just kind of getting used to that full extension at the end of the kick. What you can then do is, like I say, I'm more ideal when you've got someone holding the pad for you, so you're not going to hold it up like this. But then we can take that feeling of drilling into the pad there and bring it back further and then start sending it in to the pad, so we're kind of building up from the top end. I like to do this sometimes with coming off subject slightly, but even with punches, I like to get that feeling of what the punch feels like at the top end, and then start bringing it back and having that feeling built up from the end and then coming back to the beginning. So there's two areas left to cover now in order to kind of have a rounded approach to your side kick. One is the strength in the hips, and the other is mobility in the hips and legs, and also the back as well. Okay, so first of all, we'll cover the strength of the hips. First of all, a good strength training program will take care of this predominantly, really. Squats, Bulgarian split squats, Romanian deadlifts, this kind of thing. So you strengthen all the muscles of the posterior chain. That's going to help you the most. Then, if you don't have that, or you want to make an additional, add additional exercises to that, we can do some of these wall exercises as well. So a couple of things we want to try to do then is kind of build up the muscular strength and endurance that are involved in the abductors, the glute muscles and all this kind of thing, the muscles of the hip area. So again, holding on for balance, we can just slowly deliver that kick out and hold that position just from here. Just getting that hip angled in the correct position, send out, feel the glutes contracting and pull back. Just training the musculature to go through that feeling and slowing it down just a little. Doing that movement slowly is going to build the strength to be able to do it a little bit faster in the end. We can also do the same kind of thing, but just lifting the leg up, kind of lengthening the muscle and drawing it up this way. So we're getting an eccentric phase of this motion where we're stretching out the hip a little and then lifting it up to the side. So we're getting this eccentric and concentric action in the muscle group there. We could do these sets of 10 or so, or we can add some weight and start making it a little bit more of a strength exercise. But like I said, the best thing would be a proper strength training program, and this could be additional to that. The next one would be hip thrusts, or single leg hip thrusts, glute bridges. From here, we can use both feet to drive the hips up into the air, contracting the glutes here, so we're training the muscles of that kick. Or we can go single leg to make it even more specific and make it a little harder on each side. Okay, so make sure, of course, we're doing both sides here. Driving up this way, keeping a nice neutral position in the core and driving up this way, getting a nice contraction for the glutes. So there's a couple of exercises we can do to supplement that, our work in the gym or whatever, and help to build those muscles of the glutes, which are the powerhouse in our karate. So finally then, it's mobility or flexibility. What I want to do is think about the areas of the muscle, the areas that we need to kind of focus on is going to be the hamstrings, it's going to be the kind of midsection of the lower back. They're the predominant areas that we're going to need in order to be able to deliver this kick, and the groin a little as well. But it's not a side split action. Like I said earlier, it's more of a sort of a front split action, if anything. So we're using more this way than a side. So the first one then will be a Cossack squat. Okay, so we're coming down here and I'm stretching the hamstrings on this leg here. Okay, so I'm just getting that position, using the floor to anchor my heel into the ground, and I'm just getting a nice deep stretch in the hamstrings of this extended leg. Okay, here we can do that with the foot on the floor, or we can do that with the knee on the floor, whichever feels best for you, to be honest. But the focus is on this front leg here, or the extended leg. Okay, so we're leaning into that. I don't need to get my head down to my knee or anything, because that's now taking things into my neck and stuff like this. I just need to kind of lean in so that I'm lengthening the muscles of the hamstrings down here. Okay, just lean in, put a little bit of weight there, and feel that stretch here. We can reach out to that leg if you want to sort of intensify that stretch and pull us down into it a little bit. But this is a very nice stretching exercise for those hamstrings. The next one then, again, would be the open the hips up. So I'm getting into this kneeling position and I'm pushing myself actively back into that kind of split position there with the knees, okay? So I'm coming down here and pushing myself back into that position, getting the knees opened up and using my body weight to open these hips up a little, okay? So from here, sitting back. And again, we can transition this into a more like a flowing mobility drill. We can be sitting here, then we can bring that leg out again. We can come back in and we can bring the leg out on the other side. Now we can make it more of a flowing mobility type motion. So we're getting a lot of things done at one time. You know, it's more time efficient, and it's also building up that kind of range of motion and mobility. So the last one I said was the lower back. Okay, I'm going to do two things for this. I want to be coming down to the floor here and just arching that back up this way, okay? Because we have a bit of a back extension sort of action in that kick from here. So we're coming down, taking a breath, and breathing out as we come up. This one will be a nice motion to get that back ready or to improve your mobility in your back for this kicking exercise. Finally then, we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to lay on our front, arms extended to the sides, and I'm going to take my leg up and over. So we get a rotation now, this way. Okay, from there, lift the leg up and over to the side, trying to keep my body as close to the floor as possible and getting a good stretch in that lower and mid back. This way. Alright, so there is a few ideas really and tips on how to improve your Yoko-Geri kikomi, or your Shokan side thrust kick, your karate side kick. Let me know how it goes. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you've got any suggestions for other exercises, also leave them in the comments. I want to mention my partnership with Art Martial Clothing. They are producing these martial arts inspired clothing items, really nice stuff. Check it out. I'll put a link in the description of this video with a discount code for people who are making a first time purchase. It's going to be 20% off, so that's quite a significant discount there. They've got some lovely stuff to train in, so check it out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so, and I will see you in the next video.